Is networking starting to burn you out? If so, I've got some ideas for you. I'm Greg. I'm the introverted networker. And today I want to talk about a little bit different part of networking than I normally talk about. The reason I say that is as the introverted networker, or somebody who does a podcast every week, puts out a newsletter, has written a book about this. I talk about this on LinkedIn. Mostly I'm talking to people about networking more. Because most people I talk to say, I know I need to network, but I haven't done it. I haven't gotten started. And they have a lot of excuses. And we're going to talk about the main excuse a little bit later. And so usually I'm saying, here's how you get started. Here's how you really ramp up your networking. But what if you've been networking, you've been doing a lot of networking, and it's starting to kind of burn you out? And what I mean by burning you out is you struggle to fit the conversations into your schedule. You have a hard time scheduling things, or you feel like you're constantly running from networking conversation to networking conversation. What do you do to manage that a little bit? And I really noticed this in the last couple months because I started my new business back in September. And for those of you who don't know, I quit my job in September. I started a new business focused on employee engagement and retention and total reward strategies. So it's called Retention and Rewards Partners is the name of my company. I'm still the introverted networker. I still talk about networking. And in fact, I'm bringing networking into my retention strategies with the idea that I can help companies improve their engagement and retention by showing employees how to intentionally and organically and sustainably create professional relationships across the organization. What do? I basically teach them how to network within their company so they get to know other people, which opens up opportunities for career development, career growth, helps people become more connected, less siloed, more innovative, and helps people feel more belonging at the organization. And as a result, they'll be more engaged and they're more likely to stay. That's something I've been working on. But as I've been doing that, I've been trying to connect and network with people and share this idea with them, see what they think, see if they're interested in becoming a client. And at the same time, I already have other clients that I'm working on for total reward strategies. So one client started helping them with their benefits open enrollment last fall. And now I'm working on their annual compensation processes. And then I got another client I'm doing a top to bottom market analysis for all of their positions. So I have a client load and I'm trying to develop a new business and I'm trying to become a public speaker, a keynote speaker, a workshop facilitator, I'm trying to do all these things with this business. And the key thing I need to be doing is networking. So I've been focusing on networking, meeting people, talking to people, connecting. And I just got to a point where I was so busy. I was just finding it really, really hard to run and get this networking done, to the point where I was just kind of hesitating. I was not doing it anymore. I basically wasn't reaching out to people. I wasn't setting up meetings. And what I determined was I was a little bit burnt out on networking. I'd been going at it so hard for a few months. I just kind of needed to take a break, which is odd, right? Because I'm the guy who tells you should always be connecting. I sign off every one of these podcasts with always be connecting. I say always be connecting. So if you're burnt out on networking, how do you continue to always be connecting? How do you solve this problem? So I've really been thinking about what I need to do to keep my networking going. And some of it is taking my own advice, right? And in some circles, you say that's eating your own dog food. I need to actually do the things that I sit here and I tell you all to do every single week. So I've really been reflecting on what those things might be. And so I wanted to share a couple strategies. And this works really well, again, if you've been networking a lot, or if you just started networking and you really trying to hit it hard, and then you find like, wow, this is taking up a lot of time and I'm not excited about this anymore. I'm feeling a little burnt out. So this is a way to recalibrate when you've been networking. Now, I just want to be clear, if you're not networking and you need to start, all of the pieces and steps you need are in all of the information I share. And in fact, I can tell you the 5-step process right now. And then I'm going to come back to this because the 5-step process is important for this whole idea of dealing with burnout. So the 5-step process is, number one, start with who you know. So people say, I don't know where to start networking. You're going to start with people you already know. So people who you've met over your life, you're going to get back in touch with them. And you're going to connect online, but you're going to have in-person conversations. So you can send them an email, a LinkedIn, and say, hey, how have you been? I would love to talk. You're going to set up time with them. You're going to either have a voice-to-voice, face-to-face, just person-to-person conversation with them. That's step 2. You need to get to that person-to-person conversation. Step 3 is you're going to listen and give. So you're going to listen to what the other person's saying. You're going to think of ways you can help them out. You're going to give them something of value, an idea, a recommendation, an introduction, something like that. And then in step 4, they're likely going to say, well, you've been so helpful. How can I help you? You're going to be very easy to help, meaning you're going to have the person you want to meet or the company you want to get connected to or the industry you're interested in. You're going to have your target list available so that they can easily say, oh, I know this person. Let me send you an email and connect you. And then that new connection, you're going to start the process over again. But the 5th step, which is really important, is making it a habit. So making it a habit means to do some of this stuff, one of the 4 steps before it, every single day or every single week, or do it in small enough increments so you can make it a habit. And it's just something you always do. Now, the making it a habit is the part where I run into trouble, because every single day I bring up a list of networking contacts and I look at that and I think, who do I need to be contacting today? And I have it sorted by next contact. So once I talk to somebody and I think I need to follow up with them in a month or 2 months or 6 months, I put that date in there. And so I have a running list of who I'm supposed to be reaching out to and networking with every single day. And it's on one of my to-dos lists, and I'll get that. And some days I'm like, I could reach out to this person, but then I'm worried about setting up time just because I'm really busy. My calendar's full. I don't know where I'm going to fit this person in to my schedule. And so I'm running into the classic trap that many of you run into. And the number one excuse I hear every single time I ask somebody, why aren't you networking? They almost always say, I don't have time. I don't have time is the most common networking excuse that there is, I think. There's others like, I don't know where to start and it feels awkward, but most people just say, I don't have time. And my response is always, if you say you don't have time, I want you to rephrase this and then tell me if it's true. Instead of saying I don't have time, say it's not a priority. So if you say it's not a priority, is that true? Is networking not a priority to you? And if it's not a priority, that's fine. You can have other priorities. It doesn't have to be a top priority. If networking is not a priority for you, fine, don't do it, right? But I would argue that all the benefits and all the things that come from networking, it should be a priority. So if it is a priority, you'll find time. How can you do that, right? So for me, a couple things that I've had to do when I am really feeling like I know I need to network, but I'm not doing it for whatever reason, I look and I say, okay, am I doing too much at one time? This is in my presentation about networking. I will always say you can dial up and dial down your activity as much as you want, or as much as you need, or as much as you can handle. So you only have to do a little bit each day. This is going back to making this a habit. So if it's a tiny habit, you can go back to the idea that you should make the action smaller in order to make sure that you do the action. So if you're struggling, and this is my problem, I would go through my list and I would send one person a message and say like, hey, it's been a while since we got in touch. Would love to get back together with you. Or I would say, hey, last time we talked about this. Wondering how that's going, just checking in, would love to talk to you. And so once I do that, I'd be like, well, that was really easy. I did one, maybe I should do 2. So then I go to the next person on the list and I'd send them a note. And I go to the next person, I'd send them a note. And before I knew it, I'd sent all these notes out to people. And then all of a sudden they all came back and they're like, yeah, great, let's schedule time. And so I'd give them my calendar. And then before I knew it, in the next week or so, I've got all these meetings on my calendar that I didn't necessarily have time for. So my fault was I should have just sent that one message and left it at that. Instead of trying to do 5, 7, 10 messages because it felt good, I should have managed that a little bit better. Also, I should have managed my calendar a little better and told people, hey, I'm not available for a couple more weeks. So spread some of the meetings out instead of trying to do them all at once. So where I was getting burnt out is I was trying to have all these meetings all the time. And some of them were in-person meetings. So I'm driving to these coffee meetings and I'm driving home. I'm trying to jump on client meetings. I'm trying to get on Zoom calls with other people I set time up with. I was just doing too much all at one time. And it started to make me feel like I just don't have time for this. Again, it was becoming more of a burden than a benefit. So I kind of looked at that and thought, okay, one of the ways I can get past this feeling of burnt out is maybe I'll just send one connection request at a time. Maybe if I do one a day, okay, maybe I'll do 3 a week or something like that. And maybe I'll just kind of do it less and do it more consistently over time as opposed to doing it all at once, because it was just overwhelming me and stressing me out. The second thing that I started to think about doing is when I do set up these meetings, whether they're in person or online, I need to do them within one dedicated block each week. And this is not a revolutionary strategy, right? I mean, time blocking is part of productivity talks and people's suggestions all over the place. They would say, you always want to have a block when you're doing stuff. So I'm going to start scheduling these conversations at one specific time on my calendar on one specific day, so that I know that at this time block, that's what I'm going to be doing. And then I'll block that off from my other client meetings so that I'm only doing my networking during that time. So that's what I'm going to try to do to make it a little less overwhelming, a little less sort of prone to burnout. And then the third thing is just don't miss twice. Right. So this is the others. This is a sort of I've heard it from Sahil Bloom and others that it's okay if you're trying to do something consistently and you miss a day, but just don't miss twice. And it doesn't have to be a day. Maybe it's a week. So if you're going through networking and you're feeling like, oh man, I'm just overwhelmed, I got too much going on, I'm not going to be able to do my networking this week. That's okay. Start next week. Just don't miss 2 weeks in a row. Or if you're doing it every day, just don't miss 2 days in a row. So that lets you kind of forgive yourself for it and not completely stop doing it because you're like, I just can't find time. So those are some of the adjustments I'm making in my networking. I think those are probably useful for anybody who's networking. Again, if you're just starting out, you're going to be like, yeah, I don't have that problem. But if you follow my steps and you start going through and making a list of dormant ties and you start sending messages out to people, you're going to be number one surprised because more people are going to respond than you think. And they're all going to want to talk, and you're going to say like, let's start talking. And you're going to have all these calendars pop up, all these meetings pop up on your calendar. And all of a sudden you're going to be like, oh my God, I'm networking all the time and it's overwhelming. So it will happen, but you can dial it up and dial down. Again, that's the advice I always give people. If you're sending out too many messages and it's turning into too many meetings, getting overwhelming. And I know there shouldn't be anything as too much networking, but there's only so many hours in the day. But you can dial that down a little and bring it down to a more manageable, sustainable pace. Because what I would rather do is have a sustainable networking pace over a long period of time than doing a bunch all at once and feeling overwhelmed. Those are what I'm trying to focus on as I grow my company. And I know I need to network. And I also have to take care of my clients that I have. And I have to do all sorts of other things around creating a business. So I'm definitely trying to make my actions smaller, time block them and put them in, parts of my calendar that are protected, and then just forgiving myself and just not letting myself miss twice and continuing on and getting right back on the horse whenever I feel like I haven't been networking. I hope those suggestions help in some way. Would love to hear what you think. Please leave me a comment on LinkedIn, on the newsletter, shoot me an email. You know where to find me. I'm always here. I'm here to help you with your networking. Have a great week. Go out there, meet some interesting people. And remember, always be connecting.